Let's beat Pokémon Crystal using only the stinkiest, hardest to raise, don't learn any moves, bad Pokémon. Plus Lydia. Welcome to my Pokémon Crystal challenge run, my first Pokémon challenge that I am ever completing and recording. My name is Mothy, Jimothy for long, and between my longer retrospective videos, I decided to challenge myself to beat a Pokémon game using only its worst Pokémon. Now, I've seen Trashlock challenge runs where the player can only use Pokémon whose stat totals fall under a certain numerical cutoff, and I've seen runs using the statistically least used Pokémon, which did of course correlate to low power level, but we're doing something decidedly less scientific here, and yet more accurate. We're using a random person's tier list. But hear me out, a subjective tier list can actually be a better way of determining the worst Pokémon. And this is no casual person's tier list. I'm using a list from Zebes on the Smogon forums, who has done a lot of research and tons of playthroughs of Gold, Silver, and Crystal versions. Their rankings are really well explained and defended, and the folks on the Smogon forums do force you to defend your tier lists like a PhD thesis. These are the Pokémon who are specifically and in practice the worst to have on your team for a playthrough of Gen 2 for a variety of reasons, so my expectation is that this will represent a truer challenge run than simply defining the worst Pokémon through a stat cap. Because stat caps let you just keep a Totodile that you don't evolve and stuff like that. We're looking at Pokémon on an unknown power level. This tier list we're using ranks all the Pokémon playable in Johto through the Elite Four and Lance based on, yes, their stats, but also move pool, matchups against major opponents, and availability. Remoraid showing up after 7 badges just is not doing itself any favors. So who is in the bottom E-tier of Pokémon that we're allowed to use in Crystal version? Let's check out who's in the pool. First, we have stuff like Wobbuffet, Delibird, Shuckle, Unknown, Smeargle, and Ditto. They're all gimmick Pokemon who may be good in some circumstances, but are not generally slottable into your team. Then others are here thanks to awkward Generation 2 learn sets. Jumpluff, Zaytu, Gligar, Fanpai, and Yanma really just aren't supported by the game. They learn few or no on-type moves, even when you consider TMs. And then some E-tier Pokemon just do have really bad stats. Lickitung, Ledian, Togetic, but there's a cluster of Pokemon who are ranked lowly due to annoying or late availability, or because they take a large investment of grinding or TMs to make them usable. I'm thinking this is where I can scrounge some stronger Pokemon for the team, since I'm not scared of a grind. So who are those stronger Pokemon available on discount just because they're annoying? Well, Dragonair is down here. To get one, you either have to gamble for a Game Corner Dratini in Gold or Silver, or wait to catch one after 7 gyms in Crystal version, and then you're still stuck grinding a Dratini through the 20s. Piloswine and Octillery likewise come after 7 badges. They need some grinding to evolve, and even then they're slow and liable to take a lot of damage during fights. Rapidash and Rhydon are catchable after all 8 badges. They need your Earthquake TM or a gambled Fire Blast TM to deal real damage, and you're not much rewarded for either since their types aren't great against the Elite Four. We can get the Eevee for Umbreon much earlier, but Zebes claims Umbreon is, quote, annoying to get and performs badly. We'll have to see about that. And the Oddish for Blossom also comes pretty early, has same type absorbs plus useful status moves, and we can teach Sludge Bomb in the Oddish or Gloom stage for more type coverage. Blossom immediately seemed like the weirdest one to rank so lowly. I believe it's here because of the opportunity cost. Zebes just considers Vileplume better, but Blossom stands out to me as a potential early source of power for the team. There's also Entei. Annoying to catch unless you wait until after Clair for the Master Ball, and your fire move for the Elite Four is either Fire Blast if you want to gamble, or Ember if you don't. But come on, the stats are way higher than anyone else in this pool. Even Headbutts out of Entei will go a long way, or you can save him your Dig TM to get coverage for Pokemon like Muck and Gengar. I don't think Entei belongs on this challenge run, so I'm gonna make a few tweaks to this tier list. In exchange for evicting Entei from the pool, I'm gonna pull down one Pokemon from the D tier because I do want somebody who can surf. Since I'll be playing Crystal version, the only catchable E tier Pokemon by the time you need surf to progress is Shelder, but he's only ranked E tier for Gold and Silver versions where he can't evolve. You see, Cloyster is up here in rank C. It's a bit of a paradox. So I'm just going to allow myself one D tier surfer on my team as my prize for graciously declining to use Entei. It's a Pokemon that I've never personally used and one that seems underpowered to me, and I think that's a little more interesting than taking this tier list absolutely strictly. If it ends up being the strongest on my team, I will keep my starter Pokemon in my next retrospective video as penance. There's my stake. Of course, to make sure the game remains a challenge, I'm going to play on set mode, which removes the free switch during battles after we defeat a Pokemon, and I'm instituting level caps to make sure we can't just outgrind our troubles. That's the challenge explained, so let's hop into the run. It's important to begin this run in the morning because crappy Pokemon like to wake up early. I knew there's something wrong with morning people. I also made it Tuesday, even though it's currently Easter Sunday, because I want the pink bow early on. We're going to be stuck using off-type normal moves all game long. We might as well make them less awful. None of the starter Pokemon are legal on this run, but our choice does matter still. I took Chikorita to force Cyndaquil on our rival since we're going to build our early team to be best against Fire-type. The start of the game is not too interesting until we get the chance to catch anything. We visit Mr. Pokemon and get his egg, which sadly doesn't count as a real egg until later because Togepi is allowed on the team. But there are 4 whole catchable E-tier Pokemon before we face Falkner, so we actually have some control over the run this early. HM Chikorita defeats rival Cyndaquil to hit level 7, which is where she'll stay for the rest of the game, occasionally tagging along to cut or use Flash for us. Back at Elm's lab, we report the name of our game-long enemy to the police. Good Pokemon. And the challenge officially begins once we're given a gift of Pokeballs. Route 29 does not have anything for us, but Route 46 to the north does. Available here in Crystal version in the morning at a 5% encounter rate is Fanpie. Note, Donphan is up in C tier, and that is for Crystal version where we can evolve it before we reach the end game, but Fanpie is down here at E rank. My plan is simply to keep it unevolved. Once I finally encounter a Fanpie, I hit it with a tackle and... they flee? Difficulty/annoyingness to catch, which are kind of the same thing for Pokemon games, is definitely factored into the rankings. After a second Fanpie flees on me, I decided to just raw dog the third one and finally add Ueea to the team. Make no mistake, aside from the catch being rough, Fanpie is terrible because it just doesn't learn any moves. Ueea is stuck on merely tackle until level 25 when she learns the questionable move Takedown unless I assist her with TMs, except she can't even learn the same type ground move Dig. Her one asset is outsized stats in the hit points, attack, and defense departments, but as of now, she can't even manage to beat a Caterpie, nor escape from one. My only recourse to train Ueea are Hoppips, who can't even attack until level 10. Even then, tackle on a non-normal type with such a low attack stat is truly bad for Hoppip. So, of course, Hoppip is one candidate for this run that I'm gonna have to pass on, but they are free food for Ueea until she can defeat a Caterpie on her own. There is one other species we're allowed to catch on Route 30, and it's a bad sign that Ueea is already stronger than this one. Welcome Wordle the Ladybug to the team. At least this one knows Tackle, but again, as an off-type move with a super low attack stat, it's going to be a struggle defeating anything with Wordle. Like Fanpie, Ladybug has an atrocious learn set. His redeeming quality is a surprisingly high special defense along with pretty good speed, but a plethora of type weaknesses and low defense make him a risk to use in a lot of circumstances. At level 3, Ueea can barely defeat Caterpies, but the only thing Wordle can defeat are other Ladybugs. It's not a good sign. I took longer than you'd think grinding the team to level 6 on Trash just to have confidence against the literal first opponent trainers in the game. As long as opponents stick to physical attacks, Ueea's defense should hold up for the many turns it takes tackling down Pidgeys and Rattatas, but the fights are nowhere near close to safe. And I did creep by the first couple trainers that I could skip just to make sure I don't outlevel the first gym. This is my first time playing with level caps, and I don't have a great sense for how much XP is forced on us. I know Falkner has 2 subordinate trainers, and I do have to keep the team at or below level 9 by the time we're facing Falkner. I finally get a chance to test Wordle in battle against Mr. Level 2 bug Pokemon, but I swap into Ueea for the Weedle since she resists poison. Good thing I handed her a Poison Cure Berry too. While I didn't set hardcore rules for this run, where we release a Pokemon if they ever faint, I do want to attempt a Nuzlocke someday, so I tried to think like that during this run and spec against KOs wherever possible. Poison is an insidious killer. Okay, having reached Violet City at level 6 and 7, we're looking pretty good for the level cap, but I said there are 4 E-tier Pokemon available before the first gym, and we've only discussed 3. That last one is not out on Route 36, and we can't proceed down Route 32 yet. No, our target is a freaking Unknown in the ruins of Alph. Unknown have poor stats and only ever learn one move, Hidden Power, which has random type and power level that vary for each individual. My plan is to carefully shop for a certain element of Unknown power that will help us against not only Falkner, but hopefully Bugsy and our rival as well. And that's actually mercifully easy to do thanks to the ground type Ueea. Because Falkner is flying type and Bugsy's Scyther also flies, I'm shopping for one that is electric, ice, or rock type. Rock is ideal because that will be 4 times effective against Scyther and also strong against good Pokemon Cyndaquil. Super conveniently, I know that a hidden power that does not affect Uiia will be electric, one that's super effective is narrowed down to water or ice type, and one that's ineffective is narrowed down to poison or rock, meaning any attack that is not normally effective against us is 3 out of 5 odds to be a type we want to keep. After a big handful of tries, I run into an unknown H who devastates me with a single super effective attack. This one is either water or ice type, and it's a particularly strong one too. And unknown also flee, by the way. Don't waste too many turns swapping around your Pokemon to positively nail down its type before you catch it. I name this one Moonshine and get to diagnosing its hidden power type. It's super effective against a Leddyba, so that means ice. That's good enough for me, so welcome Moonshine to the team. It is surprisingly easy to train, especially compared to my other 2 Pokemon, one-shotting Pidgeys and looking really good in neutral matchups too. Could Unknown secretly be a powerhouse? Well, with a 3rd Pokemon on the team to spread experience points around, I went back for the trainers I skipped on Route 31, then even took on some of Sprout Tower. Uiia predictably gets rolled by Vine Whips and barely limps to level 8 in here, but Wordle has 4 times resistance to grass and stands up really well against the Bellsprouts. It's almost like Game Freak knew what they were doing with Leddyba. Almost. He gains Supersonic at level 8, a move I will proceed to lie to myself and use for the next 10 levels, even though it feels like it hits less than half of the time. Confused opponents only hit themselves like 25% of the time, and they snap out after 2 turns max. I swear Confusion RNG is rigged against the player. But tackles from Leddyba are just that weak, I'll still play bad odds just for some help dealing damage. I know Wordle is not helping me in Falkner's gym, so I let him level all the way till 9, but once Moonshine dings 8, I know it's time to escape Sprout Tower and go take on Falkner's gym. With the help of a held berry, Uiia beats the first Spearow trainer and learns Defense Curl, but the rest has Moonshine's name all over it. It one-shots the next 3 Pidgeys, hitting level 9 as we go into Falkner's champion Pidgeotto, who takes just 2 more hidden powers to win. Y'all, Ice-type Unknown is really kinda cracked for the early game. Our prize for defeating the first gym is the strongest move Uiia will learn until the endgame. Mud Slap is a 20 power ground move, coming out worse than Tackle even with the same type bonus, but it has 100 accuracy and reduces opponent accuracy every use too. Plus it is super effective against a few types which Tackle never can be. Then we're given official custody of the Togepi egg, which occupies a kind of similar space on the team as Wordle, so I'll choose not to raise this one. Having Falkner's badge has unlocked the weekday siblings, so I rush back to Route 29 now to pick up the pink bow. Now that Uiia has a ground move, I actually think Wordle gets to hold this. Then I went and finished out Sprout Tower with nothing notable happening except that good Pokemon's dialogue is a lot funnier when you're using explicitly weak Pokemon. I only care about strong Pokemon that can win. I really couldn't care less about weak Pokemon. Ha. It's down Route 32 now, where I'm pleased to have poison coverage through Mud Slap, but even then, every fight is still a real battle with this team. Like these fishermen. One man's team is 3 level 5 Magikarps, no problem, and a level 15 Magikarp who nearly wipes both Wordle and Uiia. The fisherman next to him with 2 level 8 Poliwags is usually the much bigger issue thanks to fast speeds and hypnosis, but Wordle's high special defense tanks their bubbles quite well, and I have the opposite experience. This challenge has had a positive impact on how I interact with Pokemon games for sure. Union Cave is nothing special. Moonshine's ice destroys the hikers in here, super effective on their ground types, and resists their Machops. The team is around level 13 as I make it to the Slowpoke well in Azalea Town, and they've got to stay below 17 for Bugsy. Once Kurt is restored to ball crafting, I have a suspicion we may see him again this run. Cause with such mediocre Pokemon, one of our avenues to success is going to be abusing good TMs, which there are so few of in Gen 2. Return is one of the best, and a friend ball from Kurt is a nice head start on making Return hit strongly. Anyway, in the Azalea gym, Bugsy's supporting trainers are not much problem, with Uiia defending the one Beedrill who can be a risk and hitting back with strong Mud Slaps. Bugsy himself is tougher, so I grinded everyone to the level cap before even attempting. Wordle picked up Comet Punch at 15, which, due to its multi-hit nature, is gonna still perform okay against a hard-maxed Metapod. But Kakuna's Poison Sting is worrisome, so I stuck a Confusion before swapping to Uiia and tried to get ahead of Poison with accuracy-reducing Mud Slaps. Then I swapped again into Moonshine once Kakuna was low, so we could have it fresh going into Scyther, and fortunately did dodge Poison for one turn. So for Scyther, Fury Cutter is super effective against unknowns, so we're on a short fuse here, but luckily Scyther blows a turn on Leer and even misses his first Fury Cutter to boot, so we get off super easy with 3 hidden power ices to win. This win was luck, but we take those. If you really want to sweat it, just hold out for a rock unknown. That would super crush here. Winning against Bugsy has raised our level cap to 20, but before we can leave Azalea Town, we have our second rival fight against good Pokemon. Our first rival fight that actually uses our E-tier team. Every time I say that, I sound like I have a really good voice for saying EA Sports. Well, it's a treat using Mud Slap against a non-levitating Ghastly. Then I send in Wordle for a Confusion versus Confusion battle against Zubat that I get repeatedly shafted on, and which almost costs me the match since it forces Moonshine to take a costly bite and be hurt going into Quilava. I have to switch back into a Lick-paralyzed Ueea and do my best with Mud Slaps, but the accuracy reduction never once comes through, and I lose both Ueea and Wordle before I have to use Moonshine for ineffective ice powers to win this one. Not only does Ember never miss me, but it crits Moonshine, and I only survive thanks to a Berry Heal. This fight was way too close for the levels my team is at. Good Pokemon's plan is to be strong and wipe out the weak. He's off to a great start there. Ilex Forest contains Oddishes at nighttime if I wanted to go with Blossom. I honestly didn't realize I was missing my chance here. I thought they were just up in the national park for some reason, and I didn't want to bother coming back to Ilex Forest later, so it was actually my mistake that kept Blossom out of this run. But at least I can skip the bug catching contest this way. If I was going to run it, status moves from Oddish are a nice way to interrupt Whitney's rollouts. It has merit. There is other tech for the team in here though. The Headbutt TM is a big power increase for Ueea against everything that is not weak to ground type. She's much too slow for the flinch effect to come up, but 70 power is 70 power. And Headbutt enables headbutting trees in here to add Execute to the team, but that plays out like a worse Oddish, and we could also catch a Ditto out on Route 34, but I don't want either of those. Pass a couple more trainer fights, and we're finally at Goldenrod City, where a ton of opportunity opens up for a team on a run like this. The coming gym will be tough, but we have a lot of strong tools now to mitigate. Our first stop is the bike store. This is tech I learned on my Crystal as intended run. If you're farming for a certain odd egg Pokemon, of course you want the bike, but also the bike store owner's phone call will come before your egg hatches, and those get annoying if it's taking you 10, 15 attempts to hatch the baby Pokemon you want. Getting the bike beforehand and making the phone call happen saves you some annoyance. Most importantly, the department store sells Thunder, Fire, and Ice Punch TMs, which are sadly some of the best attacks in the game at only 75 power. Running a cute, weak team is great and all, but Lance is still Lance, so I did what I can to plan the team around ice moves. Nobody on the team can learn them quite yet, but I grab 1 copy of each punch move for soon and spend the rest of my money on a couple of fresh waters on the rooftop. Goldenrod Gym has quite a few trainers before Whitney, so my next step was clearing them all out so that I could see just how much XP I'm allowed to gain while staying under the level cap. Very excitingly, one of these is a Snubbull fight that gets Wordle to level 18 when he evolves into Ledian, and Ledian can learn Thunder Punch. Ice Punch too, but I'm too poor for another copy just now, and somebody else needs my first copy. After that, it was time to bike around town for a couple of minutes until I procced the bicycle phone call so that won't ring while I'm incubating eggs, then headed to the daycare, saved my game, and accepted the odd egg from the daycare man. The baby Pokemon are all allowed on this run, being below E-tier in their own group of egg Pokemon. Even unevolved, a few of these babies would be playable Pokemon, but the random nature of the odd egg, plus the fact the non-shiny ones are guaranteed to have 0 IVs, were enough to suppress their rankings. Compared to this team though, some of the babies are looking pretty appealing. And I don't mind an annoying egg grind, it's not my first time. So I bicycled up and down Goldenrod City for many minutes, and was thoroughly pleased when my very first egg hatch is the Pokemon I was hoping for, Elekid. I'm not gonna insist on a shiny one. Welcome Car Parts to the team. She is flimsy. Low hit points, low defense, and barely more special defense make it easy to knock out Elekid. But she has surprisingly decent special attack and speed. She learns Thunder Punch naturally at only level 9 and can hold both of the other punches too, giving her surprising versatility and looking like one of my best eventual ice options against Lance. I swap trained her up against trainers I had skipped on Route 34 and in the underground, and it wasn't long before Car Parts was winning her own battles. She cleared out most of Route 35 on her own, and I also grabbed an exciting rollout TM up here. This is one that I could teach to Ueea, but she does learn it herself at level 33, and there is a different Pokemon I would prefer to save this for in the meantime. I visited the national park for a quick claw that I gave to Ueea, and which actually ended up being strong through the endgame. Sometimes going first means sometimes saving myself a hit either through a headbutt flinch or by reducing their accuracy before they act through Mud Slap. Carparts was enjoying Quick Attack to finish off foes that she doesn't quite get in one go, but I had to let Quick Attack go at level 17 for Light Screen as a hedge against tough late game fights where nobody on my team is going to be quite one-shotting anything. And as anyone who's played Gen 2 knows, the transformative Dig TM is available here. Tragically, Ueea cannot learn it, but Wordle actually can. His attack stat is not worth much, but this actually gives him something to do against poison foes, notably Morty's ghosts who are coming up soon. And I guess I can call out Yanma's availability here since that's allowed on the team, but it's basically Ledian without the special defense, or the speed, or the elemental punches. Egg moving at Leech Life is probably the best you could do, and yikes. Then, with all of our Goldenrod prep work done, it's time to take on Whitney. The team is only level 19 now, so I am leaving a bit of power on the table, but with the new strength of Carparts, I didn't want this 4-on-2 fight to become too easy. It takes me 2 turns to land Confuse on Clefairy, who metronomes a high jump kick, which is actually 75% resisted by Wordle. Ladybug has a lot of weaknesses, but quadruple resistance to fighting and grass, plus immunity to ground, does sometimes carry. 2 Thunder Punches and some self-damage from Clefairy take down Whitney's first Pokemon rather cleanly. Scary Miltank is next. She locks in Rollout, which would 4x Wordle as I switch to Ueea, who not only resists Rollout, but has that really nice defense stat to tank a few uses of it. I get the Mud Slap train started and reach 6 debuff stacks, but sadly Miltank hits the crucial Milk Drink to save herself and lands several stomps to defeat Ueea. I decide an all-out offense is my best play now, so I send in Carparts to Thunder Punch against Milk Drinks for many turns until I finally land the Paralysis, at which point a few more unanswered punches finish off Miltank and defeat Whitney, raising our level cap to 25. There's that Sudowoodo we have to defeat. It's oddly difficult for my current team, but Mud Slap Cheese does a lot of work here. Then it's on to Ecruteak City, where the game opens up quite a lot. We have access to a lot of the world now. East, there's Route 37 and the Lake of Rage. West is Routes 38, 39, and the Good Rod. We will want to power up as much as we can before fighting Morty because his fight is tough. I begin by meeting Bill in the Ecruteak Poke Center, which unlocks an Eevee for us back in Goldenrod City. Welcome Wegmans to the team. He's going to be our Umbreon. Now, this thing comes in at base Eevee friendship of 70 and needs 220 to evolve into Umbreon. That's a lot. It takes very long for Wegmans to evolve, even with haircuts and vitamins, so in retrospect, I wish I'd gone with this breeding scheme I cooked up. If we had taken Cyndaquil as our starter Pokemon, we would have had to save and reload until the gift Eevee was female, which is a 1 in 8 chance, but then we could immediately breed the parent Eevee with Cyndaquil for an egg. We'd have to raise it from level 5 instead of 20, but that's actually in our favor with respect to friendship because level ups are the easiest way to boost friendship. Plus, hatched Pokemon start at 100 friendship instead of Wegmans' 70. It's definitely the way to go if you want an Umbreon as soon as possible. I didn't do that, so our Eevee is going to take a long time to love us. But Wegmans is not our only new team member. I snuck by every trainer I could along routes 38 and 39 west to Olivine City in order to grab the Good Rod and started fishing right here in Olivine Bay. This is going to be the single D-tier Pokemon I allow myself in exchange for declining to run Entei. I'm fishing for Corsola as my surfer. Counting against it, this thing is uncommon to hook, amazingly tough to catch, then has questionable stats and a fair number of weaknesses. If it wasn't for Surf, it would actually have pretty sad attacks, but the strength of Surf alone is probably why Corsola couldn't be ranked in the E-tier. It is a strong move. After a surprising number of attempts to catch, welcome Montgomery to the team. His defense and special defense aren't high, but they're elevated, and the rock typing goes a long way in Gen 2, where so many opponents also have bad on-type movesets, so they use normal type attacks instead. It is Montgomery for whom I was saving Rollout to start him off with a rock attack. If you're not familiar, Rollout is a move that starts out weak, but doubles in power every turn for the 5 turns it runs. If you defense curl first, Rollout's power is doubled, so your first turn is actually kind of like your second turn. It's like playing Yahtzee, but your large straight is 2 through 6 instead of 1 through 5, if that makes sense to anybody. Problem is, Corsola learns Harden, not Defense Curl, and Harden does not grant the rollout bonus. Womp. I boxed Moonshine at this point because rolling 6 deep felt like it would make things too easy, and as much fun as we had early on, a one-trick unknown just doesn't have the stats to keep up into the late game, and I'm not going to bother trying. It was really good for while we had it though. Then I got to grabbing what experience I could for Morty. Playing with level caps did something interesting for my gameplay experience. It actually improved the level curve of Pokémon Crystal. Because I wanted to reach level 25 for Morty, I preemptively cleared out routes 38, 39, and the Olivine Lighthouse, which made those much more engaging because I was tackling them at a lower level. It's just a better way to experience the game. I found Wegmans very hard to train up as an Eevee, but Montgomery had more success early on. The Lighthouse is full of birds and fire types for rollout to be super effective against. Then, because Wegmans was lagging so far behind the others in power level, I decided to wait until Sunday to grab him a return TM. Once this move starts doing good damage, we'll know we're close to Umbreon level. I also grabbed the first of many haircuts he'll receive for a little friendship bump. Friendship evolutions are like waiting for water to boil. The more you focus on it, the longer it'll take you. I've got the team to level 22 by the time I challenge the Kimono girls for the experience as much as for the Surf HM for Montgomery. Wegmans is actually able to defeat some of them on his own, which feels weird, but I still allow Uiia her Jolteon. Girl does not get many chances to feel powerful. We gotta give her this. The final Umbreon sand attacks Montgomery so much that I don't think I can even try a rollout chain, but Bubble of all things finally secures the win and a proper water attack in Surf. All of that, and we're still not at Morty level, so I entered the Burn Tower for our second real fight against good Pokemon. Wordle with Dig handles his Haunter cleanly. That's a good omen for the ghosts to come. His attack is awful, but so is their defense. Then I swapped to Uiia against Magnemite, fearing a Thunder Shock, but I probably could have let Wordle keep digging, just like Grandpa said too. That Magnemite did get Wordle to level 24, which is a very important level for Ledian. He learns Light Screen, Reflect, and Safeguard all at once at level 24, and I said yes to 2 of these. Safeguard I have in mind for Hypnosis in the coming gym fight, and since his special defense is already great, I took Reflect instead of Light Screen in order to maybe survive some physical attacks as well. Plus, Carparts does already represent Light Screen on the team. These Pokemon we're playing with may be individually weak, but I've crafted a surprising amount of synergy between them. I definitely enjoy challenges that are more about the preparation than the execution. Good Pokemon's Quilava leads with a Smokescreen against Uiia. All game long, every fire foe does this if you send in a ground type, and it does get kind of annoying. I'm forced to swap out, but Montgomery only takes 1/4 damage from fire, and he's able to surf to defeat good Pokemon. With the legendary dogs and Usine set loose, the team is still at level 22 except for Wordle, who pulled away to 24. Ledian does grow very quickly, which is a mark in its favor. Plus, with all the utility options, Wordle is definitely my dark horse for the run. A case of looking bad on paper, but performing very well in practice. By battling the subordinate trainers in Morty's gym and a couple of wild Pokemon, I've gotten the team to level 24, one less than my allotted cap when I decide to go take on Morty. He's got a Ghastly, 2 Haunters, and a Gengar, 2 of which have the Hypnosis Dream Eater combo. Uiia Mud Slaps the first Ghastly after becoming cursed. I would have preferred a Lick Paralyzed to Curse in order to inoculate myself against Hypnosis though. Morty goes straight into Gengar, who, fortunately for me, misses the first Hypnosis as I Mudslap to try and prevent any future ones from landing. The second one does land right away though, and Uiia has her Dream eaten, but the third Hypnosis misses Wordle, and I'm able to set up Safeguard against any more attempts. Suck it, Trebek. I also set up a Reflect to defend against Shadow Balls, and now we're really cooking. 3 Thunder Punches isn't enough to kill or paralyze, and we're onto Carparts though for another punch before Gengar sticks the Hypnosis finally. With half the party asleep, things are looking bleak as I switch to Montgomery, blanking a Dream Eater. But one more missed Hypnosis is all I need to turn the corner, and I begin a rollout chain here. The rest is silly. He sends his non-hypnotizing Haunter to curse me, which actually just makes sure that this and the next rollout are both lethal. The lock-in nature of rollout makes it a huge risk on Nuzlocke runs, but I'm having a great time using it for this one. Phew. Beating Morty gets the Shadow Ball TM, which is pretty strong on a normal playthrough, but this is one I actually wasn't able to make good use of on this team. The level cap is now 30, but defeating Chuck only bumps it to 31, so I may need to be careful with team levels in the next stretch. One way to help with that is to grab a 6th Pokemon now that we're allowed to surf. I return to Union Cave, where the trainers are actually really tough at our current level. Be careful if you come here early. As I decline learning Takedown at level 25 for Uiia, I want to point out how awful learn sets are for most of these Pokemon. You know if you've played Gen 2. I'll ultimately end up turning down Swift for Ledian at level 42, Screech for Umbreon at level 47, and even Spike Cannon for Kosola at 31 is no treat. I was just extra aware of weird level up moves on this run because of how deep I had to go on some of these Pokemon just to find usable moves at all. So, back outside, the rear of Union Cave is a little grass patch where I can hunt for a Natu as our final member of the E-tier team. Natu's stats are totally fine, and they're common enough to catch once you make this little detour. No, This Pokemon is ranked low almost entirely because of how rough its learn set is. Welcome Hard Times to the team. Think of him mostly as a flying type, that's the key. His Psychic half serves mostly to reduce incoming Psychic damage on defense, since he doesn't learn a Psychic type move until Psychic at level 65. Future Sight at level 30, that's if we delay evolution, is listed as Psychic type, but actually hits typeless, meaning that it'll never score super effective damage, and it gets no same type bonus. On the other hand, it does hit every opponent, including Dark types, for 1x damage. But for now, all he can do is peck. To make progress now, ideally we clear out content until Chuck and Pryce are both open to be challenged and get the team up to, but not above, level 30. The road to Chuck has a bunch of skippable water trainers, but we have to do the Lake of Rage and a whole Team Rocket dungeon to unlock Pryce, whose gym also has no shortage of high-level trainers to beat. So my first step was the Lake of Rage, where I skipped trainers for now just to ensure control around the level cap. Against a red Gyarados, of course I sent in car parts for the 4x electric damage, even landing a paralysis, but a counter thrash was enough to defeat car parts from full health. Wordle had to follow up with another Thunder Punch to kill, and I collected the red scale before meeting Lance back on shore. Then pause a sec on that rocket dungeon. I ran back to Route 31 to trade Mr. Pokemon the red scale for XP share to help bring hard times up to party level, but it may also have a devious use later. My level cap for the Elite Four is going to be 47, and Natu learns Psychic at a mere 50 if we keep it unevolved, so the plan is to go in with hard times at level 47.9 and holding the XP share and see if we can't rush Psychic in time to use it against Bruno. Then, it's back to follow Lance into the Mahogany Rocket Dungeon, where Wegmans' return finally has some teeth. It's at least winning weaker matchups in 2 uses. For the one Ditto fight in here, I sent out Wordle. 2 Ledians thunder punching each other, each kind of resembled a cat fight with how well we resisted the other, even at 2x. And I was highly grateful to have the Rock-type Montgomery against all of Team Rocket's Eradicates. Even after they managed to accumulate damage on him, he's got 20 PP of recover, which make him excellent for dungeoneering. I would say I clearly see why Corsola was not E-tier, and yet he's not the strongest Pokemon on my team. Elekid and even Ledian have been pulling a ton of weight. There's a Thief TM down here I slap on hard times. The damage from that is quite low, but since he already resists psychic moves, having a dark-type attack now gives me a proper reason to send him in against Drowsies and Slowbros. He also picked up Teleport for hitting level 20, which is no fly, but I actually get some mileage out of it on this run, so heck yeah, learn Teleport. Montgomery tanks the 3 Electrode Explosions, and we finish the dungeon with the team at level 26 and 7, and hard times lagging at 22. Not a ton of wiggle room under the level 30 cap still, as I take on the subordinate Ice Trainers in Pryce's gym. Ice-type is probably my team's single biggest vulnerability, so this is no walk in the park. 3 of my 6 are weak to Ice. But Wordle actually tanks Aurora Beams thanks to Seal and Dugong having bad offense, and does fine with Thunder Punches on the crackback. Carparts does have Fire Punch, but was mostly on Thunder Punch duty in here too because of all the water. With my way to Pryce cleared, I'm now feeling good about clearing up trainers I skipped on routes 42 and 43 because I know most of the ones on the way to Chuck can also be skipped if I need to. And I pick up TM43 Detect up at the Lake of Rage, which I hand to Hard Times. Trust the vision on this one, it will make sense. Then we're walking all the way back to Olivine City, where I stock up on Super Repels and get to surfing routes 40 and 41 towards Cyanwood. Once Hard Times hits level 27, he begins to want to evolve, but I've got to cancel out every time if we're going to pull off the Elite Four Psychic XP share trick. I've also been having to cancel Oz evolutions for a few levels now. There's a lot of that on this run. Carparts is going to need evolutions canceled starting at level 30. Yusin's battle is nothing special with Mud Slaps covering his whole team. Then it's into the Cyanwood Gym, where Hard Times makes his combat debut, enjoying a 75% resistance to fighting moves that make him quite strong here, even with just Peck on offense. Natu is properly good tech. Unfortunately, it looks like we need Strength to proceed, a move which our HM Chikorita can't learn. But Gyarados can, and we need a Waterfall Slave anyway, so I make the walk back to Mahogany Town again, then surf the Lake of Rage until I catch a level 15 Gyarados to fill in on Strength, Waterfall, and Whirlpool duty. We don't have to walk back again though. Teleport from Hard Times takes us straight back to Cyanwood, then I'm finally able to challenge Chuck as my 5th gym leader with the team at level 28 and 9. Skipping trainers was just barely not necessary as it turns out. I think I did end up fighting them all. Chuck himself is a piece of cake. 2 Pecks from Hard Times take out Primeape, then unfortunately a crit Surf from Poliwrath defeats Hard Times. Thing is, Wordle is also 75% resistant to fighting moves, while also having the special defense to tank Surfs, and Thunder Punch to punish Poliwrath's water typing. Our 2 weakest Pokemon both shown especially bright in Chuck's gym. The Fly HM from Chuck's wife afterward is a significant power increase for hard times. Natu can't fly? Jeez. Come on, Pokemon. Doduo can. Pidgey and Crobat don't make much more sense either. Looks like our Psychic play is out the window if we want good mobility. But I still insist on Future Sight. I use Rare Candy to get Hard Times to level 30, where he picks up Future Sight, and then, if I let him evolve to learn Fly, I have no more need for Teleport. That'll have to be the move. At least with Fly, now we can go tackle some errands. Wegmans still wants regular haircuts back in Goldenrod, and I revisit the department store at this point to trade Wordle's Thunder Punch for Ice Punch, now that most of the water foes are behind us and dragon types are ahead. I fought the 3 weird girls for Soft Sand, even though Uiia will continue to hold Quick Claw. It's really quite helpful on a slow Pokemon whose moves have added effects. I also grabbed the King's Rock from the Slowpoke well and gave that to Wordle. He's got enough speed that some flinches might really help out. Then I fly straight in to fight Pryce, a fight which Montgomery made way too simple. I commenced with a rollout against Seal, which did take 3 turns to knock out because Seal is bulky. Then Piloswine had the defense to live through rollout turn 4, but Montgomery is sturdy enough to shrug off his Blizzard. Pryce waits the Hyper Potion, and then full-powered rollout defeats Piloswine from full. So, rollout is over by the time Dugong comes out, and my efforts to start a new chain keep missing on turn 1 or 2. Good thing Montgomery can recover significantly more HP than Dugong can output in 1 turn with these weak Aurora Beams. Eventually, I do have enough slack to chain a couple of rollouts together, and Pryce is cleanly soloed just by Corsola. I haven't even been using Surf on Montgomery, which was cited as a big reason for Corsola's higher rating. He's effectively just my Rock-type Pokemon who also happens to be slightly damp. Defeating Pryce has bumped our level cap all the way to 35 because Jasmine's Steelix really stretches the limit, but there are no more trainers left, and I don't feel the need to grind wild encounters. So I deliver the Secret Potion to Amphi and head straight in to fight Jasmine, with nobody on the team over level 30. Even at 4x effectiveness, it takes 2 Mud Slaps for Uiia to kill a Magnemite, and of course she sends in Steelix second. Steelix likes to use Iron Tail, which already starts low accuracy, so I'm hoping some help from Mud Slap will keep our team safe. But even with our massive defense, Uiia is not surviving more than 1 of these. So I send in Montgomery, who manages to dodge 2 Iron Tails and get the win in 3 Surfs through a Hyper Potion. Then there's still an awkward Magnemite left, so Uiia comes back. Another easy win for the E-tiers. I did not do myself any favors when I named this Fanpie. I did not expect to have to pronounce that so many times. Our next gym leader is going to be the Dragon Trainer Clair with a level cap of 40, but at least there's a big batch of trainers coming to get us partway toward that. I head into the Rocket Radio Tower dungeon in Goldenrod City with not too much noteworthy action. Wegmans dings level 30 to learn Bite, a Dark-type move that will benefit us as Umbreon. But this is also the level Umbreon would have learned Confuse Ray, so we're missing out on a rather helpful move there. Hard Times is quite good at handling the multiple self-destructing Weezings. With a combination of Detect and Fly, he can be invulnerable for 2 out of 3 turns, so he's pretty good at dodging those. Even when they're not exploding, we can dish out some dirty burst damage by using Future Sight, which foresees an attack that will land at the end of the 2nd turn from now. Then I spend 1 turn detecting before using Fly. The Future Sight attack will land right before Fly does, dealing a chunk of mixed physical and special damage all at once, and straight KOing many opponents past any thresholds for healing or other shenanigans at low health. It demands a lot of your moveset, but Detect and Fly together basically turn Future Sight into a regular 80 power, 90 accuracy move that has Hard Times feeling pretty strong. Our 4th rival fight comes as we enter the underground portion of the Rocket Dungeon. Good Pokemon still has it out for bad Pokemon, so we've got a fight to prove our right to exist. Carparts gets confused after landing a solid punch, so I swap to Wegmans, hoping to finish off Golbat in a return. I don't quite, but Wegmans still has Quick Attack for this exact situation. Magnemite obviously goes to Uiia, then I put Carparts back in to Fire Punch Sneasel, which ends up more closely matched than I had hoped. Haunter knocks out Carparts, so I put in Uiia, who needs 2 Mud Slaps to win, but Quick Claw makes the second one act like a quick attack, so I only suffer 1 Shadow Ball. Then it's Quilava, whose accuracy never seems to decrease, no matter how many Mud Slaps. I get him with the Hard Times Burst combo. I'm really enjoying Zaytu, y'all. Yada yada the radio tower until we reach the executives, whose levels are in the mid-30s and can be tougher than the recent gyms. Against the female, Carparts is actually able to tank weak acids from her Vileplume and get it on ice punches, and her final Murkrow, I know from raising one in Diamond version, is rather flimsy, so I risk a cheeky Thunder Punch from 3 hit points and do take that in 1 turn. After healing up, I take on the male exec, and for some reason lead Hard Times against his Houndour. His bite devastates me, but I only need to survive a single one, as a Future Sight combo nukes him down in 1 big turn that's actually 3 little turns in a trench coat. Houndoom comes in next, and I know switching is only going to get whoever I switch to knocked out, so I let Hard Times invest a future sight before going down. Uia goes in next to whittle down his accuracy, failing to appreciate that he knows Feint Attack, but maybe Mudslaps can still save someone else from a fire move. I send in Wegman's third, and he just gets there on one return. Neat. I'm rewarded for knowing Houndoom's physical defense is much lower than his special defense. And his final Pokemon is a random coughing. It is funny when they send Pokemon out of order and this happens. Beating Team Rocket has big implications for this run. Well, not actually my run, but a run adhering to the same tier list of Pokemon, because Team Rocket had a crony blocking the eastern exit of Mahogany Town until right now. With that guy gone, Route 44, the Ice Path, and Route 45 are all suddenly open, putting several Pokemon on the table all at once. Lickitung, Tangela, Wobbuffet, Piloswine, Octillery if you're not playing Crystal, Dragonair if you are, Delibird if you're not playing Gold, and Gligar if you're not playing Silver. Lickitung held some interest for me because it can learn Ice Punch and even Blizzard. Remoraid can learn Ice Beam at level 44 if you delay evolution, so I definitely think Octillery could be the play if you attempt this run on Gold or Silver version. But I'm happy with the team as is. Nobody has been bad enough that I'm eager to replace them with a Lickitung, so let's just train up who we have for Clair. I battled the 3 stages in Tin Tower on the way east for the experience, but I have no need to do the rest of Tin Tower or the legendary bird content. The Ice Path contains our Waterfall HM, as well as the Never Melt Ice. This is actually going to live on Wordle going forward. Never Melt Ice might cross some breakpoints to turn 3 shots into 2 shots against Clair. Upon reaching Blackthorn City, I head straight through to Route 45 for a final batch of trainers. Uia reached level 33 to join Montgomery in knowing Rollout, and I also decided to allow Uia to evolve into Donphan, having reached the point where Fanpie could normally be caught if I was playing Silver version. I don't know how much anyone cares how I justified this to myself, but here we go. Fanpie is ranked in the E-tier based on catching one here in Silver version. I believe Donphan being in C-tier is based on catching Fanpie at the start of the game in Crystal, like we did, but evolving it naturally at level 25, and also using defense scroll rollout combos against Morty, Chuck, and Pryce. I didn't do that, and spoiler, even after evolving, she's one of my worst Pokemon, so I had no ethical misgivings about allowing her to evolve into Donphan at this point. Against all of the special attacking opponents for the rest of the game, Donphan is no treasure. I'm still not going to evolve Carparts though, because Electabuzz is never available in Johto in any version of the game. I don't know if all that checks out logically, but it makes sense in my head. Anyway, we're pretty late game, and I'm starting to get antsy about Wegman's ever evolving. I've been consistent with the haircuts, and I grabbed him black glasses to boost Bite, but this thing is just not evolving. Umbreon, more than any other Pokemon on our list, certainly earns its low placement for the annoying to catch criteria. Save scumming for a female Eevee and breeding immediately is definitely the correct way to run Umbreon if you're ever interested in doing that. After clearing out the Route 45 trainers, the team is only levels 34 to 35, so I launched into about an hour of grinding to get the team ready to fight Clair. This team is not good at grinding, but some Route 45 work and some Ice Cave work get us to 37 before entering Blackthorn Gym to clear out the subordinate trainers. I hand all the Seadras to Carparts, but Dratinis and Dragonairs get to face the wrath of Wordle's Ice Punch. I need this to be enough, or Lance is gonna look like trouble. Well, Dragon Rage hurts, but otherwise the tech checks out. We might just be okay with Wordle. Then, because grinding was getting a little boring, and because YOLO, I took on Clair with the team still 3 levels below cap, leading Wordle into her first Dragonair. I have learned my lesson from Morty, and this time I lead with Safeguard, which does instantly blank her Thunder Wave turn. That lets me then beat Clair's first Dragonair in 2 Ice Punches, taking only a Slam. Her second Dragonair knows Thunderbolt, but Wordle's special defense is adequate to survive the super effective move and double punch the second dragon as well. Safeguard fails as the third Dragonair comes out, but instead of reapplying that, I decide my best bet is to play for a critical hit on Ice Punch. No dice. Ice Beam takes Wordle out of the fight, and Carparts has to mop up Dragonair 3. Now all that's left is her foul, weakness-less Kingdra. I lead with a Light Screen, amazingly outspeeding and cutting her surf damage to less than half of my bar. That's huge because we should be able to act at least twice more. Unfortunately, the Light Screen makes her choose Hyper Beam next turn, nuking Carparts, who leaves Kingdra with only a scratch on it. I wonder if I can exploit Hyper Beam behavior with some trickery though. Hard Time sets up Future Sight on the rest turn, Detect to dodge a Hyper Beam, and then I weirdly go for Thief. I think I was worried about wasting Light Screen turns by Fly. I do survive a Surf, setting up another Future Sight, then unfortunately waste my Detect turn as Clair uses a Hyper Potion. Fly and the second Future Sight take Kingdra down to orange as another Surf knocks out Hard Times. Next thing, I attempt a rollout chain from Montgomery, who would have performed well under light screen since he's not afraid of hyper beams, but these surfs are so strong I only managed to chip in 2 turns of rollout. Then I'm down to my final 2 Pokemon when Wegmans just gets there on a single return. Has he secretly become strong? My child must be ready to evolve soon. That fight was bloody and would have been devastating in a Nuzlocke run. But in a Nuzlocke, I would have brought the team in carefully poised at level 40.9 and had an easier time of things, so I'm still proud of my performance here. I hit the Dragon's Den to get my Rising badge, don't bother claiming the Extreme Speed Dratini, and then we're free to continue to the Pokemon League. After grabbing the Master Ball from Professor Elm, but I don't think I'm using that on anything this run. I head through Tojo Falls and up routes 26 and 27 toward Victory Road, grabbing all the trainer experience that I can. While Lance's levels reach 50 in the Elite Four, Nuzlocke runs usually keep to Karen's level cap of 47, so that's what I'll do. I'm still a long way off from that, though. But before we get to the Elite Four, our 5th fight against good Pokemon takes place in Victory Road. Carparts leads against Sneasel and takes him in 1 critical hit Fire Punch. Cool. Good Pokemon follows up with Magneton? Okay. Against that, I'd leave Carparts in and create some space with Light Screen, which forces him into using Swift. Unfortunately, his Swift crits me, but I'm still above half as a 2nd Fire Punch takes down Magneton. He sends Haunter in, and I feel like anyone I can switch to will have an even worse time with Shadow Ball. If I was thinking straight, I would have put in Uia to resist those and hit back well with Empowered Mud Slaps. But Carparts miraculously survives the Shadow Ball that I had accepted as his Executioner and gets in 2 Thunder Punches to beat Haunter as well. Light Screen fades as Rival sends in Kadabra, so I accept my fate again and cash in Carparts with a Light Screen to protect her friends. Except all Kadabra does is Future Sight, so I punch him. Then he Future Sights again, so I punch him again to win. That's 4 rival Pokemon all done with an Elekid. This girl is on a generational run. Future Sight does finally catch up with her after this, so I send in Uia against his Typhlosion, the first time we're facing Rival's fully evolved starter. It's also the first time he's missed a fire attack against Uia after playing the same matchup and shrugging off my Mud Slap accuracy reductions all game long. Donphan's special defense is a fraction of his physical defense, so you don't like to see these hit. Headbutt has to take the win. Good Pokemon's last is Golbat, who does manage to bite down Uia. A flinch stopped rollout from gaining momentum, so Wordle has to take me home with an Ice Punch. At least Rival's dialogue after we win this time isn't all about hating weak Pokemon. Having reached Indigo Plateau, it's time for the pre-Elite Four spending of cash. 0 of the Pokemon on my team can learn any of the Game Corner TMs, so no money is tied up there. I'm free to spend everything on vitamins. This Eevee will evolve if I have anything to say about it. I got a bunch of HP ups, which should get Wegmans' friendship over the finish line and synergize well with Umbreon's high defenses. Carparts got some calcium to boost her odds of getting one-shots, since she really doesn't want to have to attack twice, and Hard Times got some Carbos for speed since he has good but not great speed, and a couple of points should help him win more races. Then I did some final grinding to get everyone up to level cap. I did some of my training inside Victory Road and some of it outside. There's a little pond I used for easy electric weak foes for Carparts to ding 41 and learn Natural Thunderbolt. That's a big power boost that she badly needed. Level 40 was finally the trigger for Wegmans to evolve into Umbreon after raising Eevee from level 20, never letting him faint, giving maybe 6 haircuts and a whole bunch of vitamins. His defenses are maxed out now, but his moveset is still kind of dismal, Return or Bite being my 2 moves, but lacking the offense to back them up. So let's get him some degenerate defensive moves. I slap Arrest and Attract on Wegmans for maximum stalling power. It's only a shame so much of the Elite Four is male, or Attract really could devastate. For Montgomery's part, he hits 43 to learn Ancient Power over Rollout, and I also hand him Earthquake over Harden. Harden spam with Recover could have been dirty in theory, but there's just no matchup till now or in the Elite Four that really wants that. Those are the only noteworthy changes as I grind the team to a fresh level 47. Then, as custom in my runs, I want to give the team a report card on their performance before we head into the Elite Four. That's particularly interesting on this run because each teammate's power level has not grown at the same rate. Uia was miserable for those first few levels, then hit a stride between Falkner and Morty when Mudslap and Headbutt were doing good damage. She's fallen off a lot since then though, sitting out most gym leader fights. Her defense is excellent, but most tough battles have been special attackers, many of them even with ice and water moves to punish ground type. This might have consistently been my worst Pokemon, even once evolved. And yes, I did snub her for the Earthquake TM since she'll learn that naturally at level 49, but I'm not sure she'd even get to use it in the Elite Four. I'll do what I was gonna do with Psychic on Hard Times and let her hold the XP share so she can learn Earthquake during the Elite Four anyhow. Wordle was basically unplayable until evolving at level 18, but since then, Thunder and now Ice Punch have served him very well. Yes, it takes him a few turns to win, even in a good matchup, but ground immunity, basically fighting immunity, and a high special defense keep him relevant against a surprising cut of the meta. Add in Reflect and Safeguard for utility, and Wordle has been one of my best Pokemon. Really weird how that worked out. Dig is still around, but hasn't been strong since Morty. Carparts is okay. Her coverage has been fantastic all game long with 3 elemental punches and now free Thunderbolt from level up. It's a privilege that few Pokemon enjoy. The problem is she leaves a lot of opponents alive after one attack because her special attack is only at Ledian or Corsola levels at this point, but unlike them, her hit points and defenses are not worth anything. She's got Light Screen to fix that against some opponents, but Carparts is definitely one who started out strong and has not kept up in growth. Wegmans is awkward to rank because he was bad as an Eevee for 20 levels and he's practically untested as an Umbreon. I will say high level return still does fine damage, even off type and with low attack stat, and Bite looks good for coming Will, though I'd actually prefer Feint Attack if we'd been able to evolve earlier since Wegmans doesn't usually have the speed to flinch on bites. Montgomery has been pretty good, but not because of Surf. He's mostly used Rollout, which had an opportunity cost, and also Corsola learns not Defense Curl, but Harden, so it's not as good as it could have been. Ancient Power, starting at double power of Rollout and with full accuracy, has already felt like a nice upgrade, but needs me to use my PP up since it only came with 5 uses. Corsola definitely takes investment to use, but the simple utility of having a Rock type to defend normal moves is good enough to forgive many shortcomings during the campaign at least. Lastly, Hard Times has been totally fine, and I'd argue doesn't belong in the E-tier with the rest. His special attack and speed are looking sharp, and his attack stat for Fly plus his defenses are fine too. Sure, lack of a psychic move is disappointing, but against the poisonous bugs and fighting types in the Elite Four where we'd want that, Fly still covers those opponents. The Future Sight, Detect, Fly combo has legitimately been strong, and even Thief has been getting value against psychic opponents that Hard Times also defends against. Zaytu is slept on in Gen 2. No more stalling. Let's take on Elite Four Will. Wegmans is making his evolved debut here as a Dark type, because he nullifies psychic damage. There are still off types to worry about though. I outsped Zaytu turn 1 for a big but non-lethal bite. He confused me, and unable to hit me with Psychic, just chipped in damage for a couple of turns while I hit myself. But instead of finishing him off, I just went to sleep. More quick attacks barely hurt me while I rested, and I wake up, bite, and finish Zaytu number 1. Will sent in Slowbro next. One bite got him to only 40%. Slowbro used Amnesia to sharply raise special defense, but even so, I didn't believe Return would be quite lethal, so I chose to bite again, playing for a flinch. That paid off as I got the flinch, taking care of the bulky Slowbro on turn 3 flawlessly. Will's second Zaytu also got the bite flinch treatment, but a max potion spared him from losing as cleanly, and Wegmans took an extra chip from quick attack. Jinx finally showed up, my greatest op, but she too got a flinch delivered for Christmas, and Will has already blown his max potion. At this rate, I'm honestly concerned about PP for bite, so I finished Jinx with Return, knowing how low her physical defense is. Executor is last, who has a fair bit of bulk, so I settle in to trade a couple of blows, but one bite just... That's critical, right? Yeah. Wegmans, the E-tier Umbreon, just defeated Will solo, down only 31 hit points. Koga is a little more dramatic. It's time for Wordle to shine. His Ariados is not going to accomplish much with quarter-effective Giga Drains, so I lead with Safeguard expecting he'll try Toxic. Unfortunately, he only chains double teams as I go for Ice Punch and do less than half damage. I'm happy to slog through high evasion while I tank Giga Drains, but what kills me is this baton pass into Crobat. It's probably not too common for Koga to pop off like this. Do not let Ariados live, y'all. I'm not trying to take out Crobat with Wordle, so I set up Reflect before switching to help Montgomery survive. Meanwhile, Crobat has done a third evasion raise of his own and Toxics Montgomery. A Nailbiter of an Ancient Power critical looks good. Ugh. Full restore, more double teams, and some wing attacks see Montgomery defeated with help from Toxic Ticks. This is where I'm missing Feint Attack on Umbreon. Carparts has to be my savior here, just needing one Thunderbolt to land. She even resists wing attacks, so she's got a couple of turns to try, and eventually does land the hit she needs, too broken to stay in for another foe. Unless that foe is Forretress. She has time for Forretress. Koga stalls with Protect to cause me more toxic damage, but turn 2 Fire Punch is good enough to one-shot this tank. And then, it's just back to Ariados. I mean, yeah, I'll keep taking wins with busted up Carparts if you insist. Venomoth comes out next, and I'm about to switch out to save Carparts till I think on it and realize his psychic damage should be pretty weak being off-type. That was the right call. Carparts takes a third win as Koga sends out the tanky Muck. This should take me a couple of turns at best, and I obsess over staving off Toxic and send out Wordle to Safeguard, though that got him downed in 2 Sludge Bombs. Maybe Reflect was the better play here? So it's over to Uee for a handful of Mud Slaps to win. If Monk had used Toxic and spammed Minimize here, we might have lost Uee instead, so it's possible that Wordle's Safeguard sacrifice did save another life instead of his own. With 2 on the team knocked out, that was kind of a bloody Koga fight. Allowing Ariados to pass off evasion boosts to Crobat really hurts. This fight is where E-tier Rapidash or Entei could have helped a lot. Bruno next concerns me conceptually because fighting's only 2 weaknesses are Psychic, which we don't have, and Flying, which he has countered thanks to Rock Slides and Detect. I can't send hard times against Hitmontop because Detect can blank Fly. That should only have 5p we could wear through, but we'll take a lot of quick attack damage while we do that. So it's Wordle for me instead, who blanks his digs. I set up Reflect after taking a critical quick attack, not great, but I can get lucky too. Tonight's forecast? A freeze is coming. And that was a critical hit, jeez. Let's add insult to injury. Another punch gets Hitmontop in lethal range, then instead of finishing him off, I decide to sandbag a few turns, setting up Safeguard, which I think is useless here, just so Reflect will wear off and I can apply a fresh one before finally claiming the knockout. Does Bruno not have a full restore, or does he hate his Hitmontop that badly? This is gonna damage their relationship. Onyx is next, who would surely one-shot me with a 4x Rock Slide if he gets a turn, but his hit points aren't high, and I risk Ice Punch, which does get there in 1. Wordle really is on a hot streak, so I leave him in for Hitmonchan. Even super effective Fire Punches should barely scratch me. That doesn't matter though, because Wordle gets another Freezing Ice Punch that's again a critical hit, because screw you, that's why. Once I get him low, Reflect fades, so I again refresh that. Then instead of letting Wordle get the kill here, I swap into Hard Times, who should have better odds against the remaining Machamp and Hitmonlee. It would only take 1 attack to win here, but I invest in a Future Sight first to assist me against whoever he sends in next. No reason to detect, so I fly to beat Hitmonchan, and the incoming Machamp takes that Future Sight for only about a quarter. Reflect fades too, so Hard Times is in danger. I cross my fingers and fly up high, and that just wins. No way that would have worked without the Future Sight. And Bruno's last Pokemon is Hitmonlee with only quarter effective fighting moves. He doesn't even get the chance, as 1 fly wins from full. I know Bruno's not usually a challenge, but demolishing that fight with only my 2 least assuming Pokemon was a special treat. Now, one consequence of this weird team is I had to restore PP now. Wordle has been using Ice Punch so much, I had to fix that up now, and Montgomery only used a couple of Ancient Powers against Crobat, but with only 7 max PP, I decided to top that off too. That gets us ready to fight Karen. As much as I would enjoy a mirror match, I send Uee against her Umbreon to Mud Slap, not realizing he has Feint Attack. But that work was not for nothing. I pivot into Defense Curl and Rollout as he tries to reduce my own accuracy with Sand Attack, which fails thanks to my Mud Slap debuffs, allowing me to successfully gather Rollout momentum and defeat Umbreon after only 2 rolls. A Vileplume comes out second knowing Petal Dance, but a level 3 Rollout, a crit for good measure, just ends her before she can try. Jeez. Murkrow, weak to Rock, comes out and gets in a chunky Feint Attack before losing to Rollout turn 4, and Gengar comes out, lands Paralyze off a Lick, but then crumples to a maxed out Rollout. This is going so stupidly. Just 1 Sand Attack from Umbreon probably wouldn't have allowed this. Mud Slap really was the true combo. Houndoom will stop me before I can build up a new Rollout, so I swap into Wegmans, a rare Pokemon sturdy enough to survive Houndoom's big attacks. The plan was Attract into Rest, which would have really hassled her if not for the critical Flamethrower ending Wegmans early. So I sent in Montgomery, who survived Crunch at over half, and would have won on a second Ancient Power if not for another crit for Houndoom. She really didn't need the RNG help she's getting, but neither did I. All of my options are bad now, so I try Hard Times for Neutral Fly, knowing her defense is much lower than her special defense. Karen heals Houndoom, and Fly is non-lethal, but somehow Houndoom's super effective Crunch is also non-lethal? When did Hard Times get this much special defense? A second Fly is all I need to win the match for the E-tiers, and that was actually the trigger for Uee to hit level 49 for Earthquake, which is literally blank against Lance's team of Flyers, but we've had so much more success with Rollout that I have not even missed it yet. Now we gotta do Lance. I wish I could say I've been planning for Lance all game long, but really that just entailed picking 2 Ice Punch users and praying for the best. Unfortunately, one of them is also signed up as my Gyarados handler, so I lead with Car Parts, and fortunately she does knock that out in 1 Thunderbolt. A level 47 Dragonite comes out next, maybe the Blizzard one, but probably the Thunder one. Car Parts is probably toast no matter what I do here, so I go for a Light Screen to help out the next guy, and actually do dodge a Hyper Beam, so I get to Ice Punch once before a second beam kills me. I'm all in on stacking defenses now. Killing him on his recharge turn would be flushing away value, so I put up Safeguard against Thunder Waves before Wordle finishes off Dragonite number 1. Dragonite 2 comes out, and the downside of Light Screen is I've probably locked Lance into just Hyper Beams, which are more dangerous than a super effective Blizzard would be. But Wordle lucks into the freeze on Ice Punch again. He's been super hot with this all league. That gives me a free turn to reflect before finishing off Dragonite number 2 with another Ice Punch. Aerodactyl comes in 4th, and I'm not letting Wordle suffer 4x rock attacks, so I change to Montgomery, and Rock Slide only does me 20 damage thanks to Reflect. Tragically, his second Rock Slide crits, ignoring my defense boost. I went with Ancient Power, praying for a stat boost, whereas Surf probably would have just been lethal here. Montgomery survives another Rock Slide, leaving him space to recover, just as Reflect terminates. I still should have had the win, but a flinch on next turn's Rock Slide forces me to swap out. Wegmans should have the beat for this. One Rock Slide and even a Hyper Beam next turn don't break half, as a Bite puts Aerodactyl on death's door. Now, I could win, or I could win with more hit points. Let's go to sleep. Aerodactyl gets in 2 more Hyper Beams, one of which crits, so Eggmans has to sleep again. But the way things line up, this second rest is only subject to 1 Hyper Beam, and it's not a critical hit, letting Wegmans finish the job at pretty high health when he wakes up. Rest Cheese is a cycle I repeat a lot during the ensuing Charizard fight. Rest has 10 PP, and I'm not sure how much Flamethrower has, but he's burning 3 of them for every 1 rest, so like an absolute degen, Wegmans just wastes his entire Flamethrower PP until he's stuck using much weaker wing attacks and slashes. From there, it's just a handful of bites to win, easy. Against Lance's final level 50 Fire Blasting Dragonite, I lead with a rest and see he chooses Outrage. That will be his undoing. I need Dragonite to confuse himself. Unfortunately, in Gen 2, we're not told whether the confusion has set in after the second turn of Outrage, and it hasn't because he rages a third turn freely. So I know at this point he's definitely confused, but more importantly, he's probably going to Outrage again, a special type attack that isn't super effective against Bug or Flying, and he's locked into it for at least 2 turns. Enter Wordle. He attacks through confusion for less than half of us, as we Ice Punch for more than half of him. Then he's cheaply free of confusion after just the 1 turn, but his locked-in Outrage is easily survived by Wordle, allowing our Ledian to embarrass Lance's champion and win the league with a second Ice Punch. That was a crazy Elite Four experience. My 2 allegedly most powerful Pokemon, the Corsola I pulled in from D-tier and the Donphan I allowed to evolve, were my 2 least helpful Pokemon throughout the league. Wegmans carried Will entirely and did a number on Lance, and Wordle the Ledian did so much work for Koga, Bruno, and Lance. Hard Times handled half of Bruno, and would have been great for Will, too, if Wegmans didn't hog the whole fight. My little team of misfits ended up doing so well. Frankly, just being anywhere close to the gym leaders and Elite Four in level while I faced them did a lot to keep me feeling powerful. Trying this run without grinding, staying at level 40-ish for the Elite Four like normal, would have been a different story. The fact that I just didn't lose every single speed contest for being underleveled was my saving grace. Because speed is an important facet of the strength of many Pokemon. Ledian just doesn't have a lot going for it, but speed is one of its strengths. Playing this challenge underleveled would have thrown that away entirely. Alright, well, there's a whole postgame to get through, and a tough fight against Red at the very end. Matching him at level 81 won't be necessary. I'm gonna set 65 as my postgame level cap for, I don't know, no specific reason. The script can go pretty quickly through the Kanto experience until Blue, because the gym leaders until Blue don't exceed Lance's level, and my team is only getting stronger from here. I collect the SS ticket from Professor Elm and set sail for Vermilion City, whose gym most players are going to challenge first because it's here, but I have a well-established Kanto route I abide by that hits the gyms in ascending difficulty, not strictly level order, I think. Check out my Gen 2 post-game retrospective after this if you want the specifics. I think it's pretty clever. So, once I land in Vermilion, it's immediately north to Saffron City, where the Psychic guy gives us TM29 Psychic. Ah, finally a Psychic move for car parts. Yeah. Elekid can learn Psychic, and we're done fighting dragons, so Ice Punch has lost most of its utility for a girl who also knows Thunderbolt. I overwrite Ice Punch with Psychic. Hard Times has Psychic move at home. He's fine. From there, it's west into Celadon for leftovers out of the cafe trash, a huge power boost for Wegmans. He didn't really need that 10% damage boost on bites from black glasses, but with leftovers, he's unkillable. Then I blasted down Cycling Road, collecting trickles of Trainer XP. Car Parts got to decline learning Thunder at level 49, till I arrive at Fuchsia Gym to challenge Janine. She's so level this doesn't matter much, but Montgomery finally got to put Earthquake to good use here. Ground type was so good before Levitate ruined everything. My Kanto route eschews gym battles for a while now because I like to hit Brock second, so I do all the power plant, machine part chores to restore power to the radio station and collect my radio expansion card. Then I go to weak Snorlax and... Shoot, I never got the actual radio. Don't be like me. On the boat ride of shame back to Johto, Wegmans dings 52 to learn Moonlight over Rest. This was a big mistake. I thought Moonlight healed half like Recover. Rest is definitely the better move for Umbreon, especially considering that it heals status effects. But I also decided to give him Toxic from Janine over Attract, so his power level ended up about the same after these two changes. Then with the radio, it's back to Snorlax, which Hard Times thieves a second Leftovers from that I allow him to keep. Leftovers has natural synergy with Fly, and even more with this whole Detect combo. Then it's through Diglett Tunnel to Pewter and Brock, where Wordle easily handles his 3 ground-type Pokemon before Brock sends out the Rock-Water Fossils. Carparts has enough levels on Omastar to tank a Surf though, and she handily bolts the final 2. I consider Lieutenant Surge to be a little easier than Misty, so I fly to take care of him now. Of course I lead with my ground type, but there's no rush to use Earthquake against a Raichu, so I stack max defense curls before just one-shotting everything with Earthquake. I was being extra. Flying back to Pewter, I walk east to face Misty with a fight against good Pokemon along the way in Mount Moon. Sadly, his levels, like most of Kanto's, are too low to even be fun, and there's nothing to report. Misty is the first Kanto leader who's any challenge. Carparts cannot sweep her because she do have that Quagsire. Lapras gets tricky with Perish Song and then freezes Hard Times, and then freezes Wegmans when I switch to him, so I finally get a taste of that cold medicine, but Ancient Powers from Montgomery carry the rest of Misty's fight. And Erica is a whole nothing burger for Hard Times. After Erica, I fly back to Pewter, then head south, taking on Cal at the trainer school in Viridian City. Then it's through Pallet and Cinnabar to fight Blaine, whose quarter-effective fire moves are just nothing against Montgomery. They're only half effective once he starts a Sunny Day, which also gets me to pivot from Surf to Ancient Power, but Blaine never stood a chance. Sabrina is no big deal for Hard Times. Her Espeon Psychics are doing a whole 29 damage. Sadly, my first Fly misses, so I take more attacks than I needed to, but Leftovers is keeping me mostly topped off, and I steal more heals with Detect before landing a good old Future Sight Fly Blast combo. Mr. Mime and Alakazam are much the same, they only tickle, and Fly punishes low defense. Kanto's final gym leader, Blue, is an actual fight, and we're even below his level again, so I'll take this one more slowly. I lead Uia against Pidgeot, where Earthquake is useless, but Defense Curl into Rollout? Now that's a strategy. Rollout turn 1 actually crits for lethal too. That's such a hack. Blue sends Gyarados next for Hydro Pumps, which, ow, but he is still a flying type. Ripperino. Uia misses Rollout 3 against Executor, but all he does is initiate a Solar Beam. Wordle is happy to take 25% of that damage and get to Ice Punching. I get him down to red twice with Ice Punches as Blue full restores and I suffer a few Egg Bombs. So instead of pushing my luck, I switch to Hard Times to defeat Executor. Against Rhydon, I put in Wegmans, tanking a Rock Slide and hoping that he's done full restoring as I go for Toxic. Rhydon does everything he can to stack damage against my defensive Pokemon, starting a Sandstorm and using Earthquakes to race Toxic, but that's not enough to save him. Then for Arcanine, of course I've got to send Montgomery as a hard counter. 2 Surfs get me the win despite taking a burn. For his final Alakazam, I actually send out Wegmans again with 1 foot in the grave and begin the road to recovery with Leftovers and Moonlight mid-battle. After trading bites with recoveries for a few turns, I just go for Toxic, and that helps me outrace his healing to finally defeat Blue. We're getting close now. With all of the Kanto gym leaders defeated, my final boss fight against Red is now unlocked up on Mount Silver back in Johto. I bring the team over to the Mount Silver Poké Center, then break the action for a while as I grind up levels to make this a fair fight for us. I actually do have something I can say about the grinding process. A low stat E-tier team can be built to effectively counter the big battles as I've shown, but some of these Pokemon are still very bad at grinding against wild Pokemon. You want volume. You really want to be one-shotting most of the wild Pokemon in an area, and that's just not how a rollouting Donphan or a future-sighting Zaytu work. So as I grinded to level 65, I actually relied heavily on my XP share, even with everyone at such high levels. Wegmans, Montgomery, and especially Carparts, who had coverage on the entire area thanks to Psychic, were my drivers, and I swapped around the XP share to the other 3 Pokemon as my passengers. Once Hard Times finally hit level 65, after having no Psychic offense all game, he picked up honest-to-goodness Psychic. Thanks for your service, Future Sight, it's been good. And it's time to challenge the final boss of Pokémon Crystal. Red leads with his level 81 Pikachu, and for the first time since Lieutenant Surge, I'm treating Uia like the ground type she is and using Earthquake. That one's easy. Second comes Venusaur, and knowing I'll probably survive a Giga Drain and act second so that he won't even get healed, I try another Earthquake and actually hit for more than half as he charges up a Solar Beam. Our response to Solar Beam is to soak them up with Wordle, and this time I just Ice Punch him twice instead of getting cute with status moves. Red sends in Charizard, so I swap to Montgomery, countering his whole moveset and almost killing in a single 4x Ancient Power. We get their next turn, sadly without stat ups on either. In fact, I haven't hit an Ancient Power stat increase this entire game. Ice Punch Freezes stole all of my lucky procs. Red puts in Espeon fourth, and I run back Ancient Power praying for stats, but again missing the stat up. I cut the crap and put in Wegmans to eat up his Psychics. Toxic and a couple of bites win that one easily. I know Red's Snorlax can rest, but I still lead with Toxic, hoping to either trigger early rest or nuke him down past the threshold with a combination of poison damage and an attack on one turn. His use of Amnesia puts me on Return instead of Bite as he lands a few body slams, but fortunately no paralysis. I'm expecting everything to get ruined when he finally rests, but he just doesn't, and a critical hit from Return helps cross the finish line before he gets the chance. Now, a healthy Wegmans could likely tank Blastoise from full, but he is already against the ropes, so I decide to put in Montgomery against Blastoise. This thing is tough. I'm in damage control mode. Carparts is willing to sacrifice herself to land a very important light screen, but Blastoise actually takes it easy on me for a turn and uses Whirlpool. Thunderbolt hits for over half and paralyzes, but his next Surf tragically crits through light screen, and I have to send in Hard Times to clean up Blastoise with a couple of neutral Psychics. This ends a bloody fight, but ultimately wins Pokémon Crystal with a team full of bottom-tier Pokémon. What a fun run this was. Catching and using these oddball Pokémon took me back to a level of difficulty closer to what I experienced playing Pokémon for the first time as a kid. I know I got a bunch of Pokémon knocked out. I didn't keep track, but it was maybe like 12 knockouts all run, so I still have a little to learn before I try a real Nuzlocke challenge. But playing on set mode was a great learning experience. It had me considering the move each opponent was likeliest to use whenever I switched, and it showed me the value of support moves like Light Screen and Reflect. Hell, even Safeguard. Regarding the team's performance, I want to spend a little bit revisiting the tier list and talk about my experiences with these Pokemon and where they did or didn't line up to those tiers. Corsola certainly wasn't better than the team average, so I'd say he does live with them down in the E tier. Surf just doesn't have that many targets after the point you catch him, and Corsola doesn't have the sturdiness of Umbreon to be a true tank. Speaking of, Umbreon was way too strong to live down here. Even just with Rest and Bite, he was dangerous in the Elite Four. Evolving him was quite a trial, and maybe that's enough alone to discount him, but as far as, quote, annoying to get and performs badly from ZBs, I would say we can strike the performs badly. I can see why Ledian and Zaytu are ranked down here. I would agree with both. I know I gassed up Zaytu a lot, but he did take a lot of investment just to make him regular strength. Both of these were good, but mostly in specific situations. They're not generally strong Pokemon. I certainly wouldn't say Donphan belongs anywhere above Fanpie, even if I did evolve mine naturally as soon as I could have. Maining Headbutt or Mudslap for 95% of the game is just not good, and it's not like Earthquake shines in the Elite Four either. Donphan is probably my single biggest disagreement on rankings, having completed the run. It just dies way too easily, because every real opponent in the late game has special type attacks that tear through Donphan. Elekid, I know, was sort of a fake E-rank Pokemon because the babies are in a special E odd egg subtier, but mine didn't end up much stronger than anyone else on my team. The Punch TMs start Elekid and Magby off strong, but the flimsiness of both is a real issue late game. It's possible farming for a shiny one would have kept it feeling stronger, but that's even more annoying to get, so the E tier would have been even more justified. And looking back to Unknown, that's basically the story for it as well. Grabbing a Rock Hidden Power Unknown can be surprisingly strong for the early game, but it just gets left in the dust around Whitney. Having only one move is quite a liability. Thank you for watching my first Pokemon Challenge run. If there's others you want to see, including a potential Nuzlocke, drop me a comment with your recommendations, including telling me what game to try that on. I'm certainly open to executing this same type of run on other titles as well. And thank you very much to my patrons for your support as always. Y'all make a big difference in keeping this channel possible so that I can keep growing and delivering content. Long retrospectives on the rest of Gen 4 are coming soon, so subscribe if you want to be notified when those come out. Everyone seeing Platinum kicks the stuffing out of Diamond and Pearl, so I'm gonna be real salty if it doesn't. Alright, that's all I got. Peace out, Girl Scout.